Ever since his first introduction on screen and on the page, Winter Soldier has captured everyone's heart. Whether it is because of Sebastian Stan's portrayal of the assassin in the movies, or because of how Bucky seemingly came back from the dead in the comics, both have fans wondering about the backstory and strength of the assassin. We have seen Winter Soldier go toe-to-toe with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers without breaking a sweat, so we know that he is powerful, but what is the source of his power? Is it his bionic arm? Is it something else? Let's find out in this video, where we take a deep dive into the anatomy of the titular Winter Soldier. Now, before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin. Who is Bucky Barnes? How did he become the Winter Soldier? Our beloved Bucky Barnes was born in 1925. Named James Buchanan Barnes, Bucky was an American soldier. He was orphaned at the mere age of 10. He lost his mother when he was very young, and his father passed away due to an accident while Bucky was at base camp during training. But the loss of his parents did not stop Bucky from following through with his dreams, because he, just like his father, loved the armed forces. In the comic, Bucky met Rogers when he was asked to accompany him on his missions. Bucky found out the true identity of Steve and decided to stick by him. When it comes to the movies, we learn that Bucky and Steve had been best friends for a while. In fact, Bucky was already part of the military while Rogers was still trying to apply for the same. That was when Rogers was recruited for the Super Soldier program. Eventually, in 1945, both of the friends, along with a few more, decide to get on the train that has Arnim Zola to capture the man. While on this mission, Bucky falls into the river below the train. The Hydra sent people to find the super soldier that fell into the water. While they were unable to find Steve, they found Bucky in near perfect condition except for his left arm, which was compromised during his fall. They were forced to amputate and gave him a prosthetic titanium arm instead. What really happened to Bucky was unknown to fans for the longest time until the release of the Wakanda Files in 2019. In this book, we get to learn about the horrors that Bucky went through. As Bucky was the first Winter Soldier, they brainwashed him over and over again to remove any of his past and his mind to make him the world's deadliest assassin. They even gave him gamma radiation so that he would become stronger. Bucky was very resistant to brainwashing, so in Zola's files, it's mentioned he had to go through electroconvulsive therapy several times before it was successful. This brainwashing took several years for Bucky, and while in that state, Bucky was almost living in a dream world where he was unable to refuse any order given to him. Using that obedience against him, Bucky was used to commit all the most horrendous assassinations around the world in the 50 years that followed. He finally got out of this brainwashing thanks to Io, the second in command of Dora Milaje, when Bucky was living in Wakanda after the Civil War. Why doesn't Bucky age? Bucky appears to have the face of a man in his early 30s despite his actual age. Is it the result of a very strict diet? Perhaps a very good skincare routine? Sadly, the answer is no. When it comes to Bucky, the secret behind him looking so damn fresh all the time is his enhanced longevity and cryostasis. We all saw how Captain aged when he was stuck in the glacier. Basically, he didn't. But that was unmonitored and uncontrolled. When it comes to Bucky, who was put in cryostasis immediately after being rescued, he was under strict monitoring. Because he was meant to be the Winter Soldier, obviously aging was not an option to him. So thanks to Hydra being something like a helicopter mom who put Bucky in cryostasis whenever he was not out and about for a mission, Bucky did not age. Later, he was injected with the Infinity Formula. This gave his entire body system a lot of upgrades, and one of them was enhanced longevity. His youth and correspondingly his lifespan increased significantly thanks to the formula. This is why whenever we see Winter Soldier, it seems like he hasn't aged a day. Plus, Sebastian Stan, who plays him in the movies, also has a very youthful face, which captures the essence of this ageless ex-brainwashed assassin. Why does he have a bionic arm? Back in 1945, Bucky was on the train that had Arnim Zola. During the tussle that followed on the train, Bucky fell to his supposed death in the icy river. However, Bucky was not dead. He lost his arm in the fall, but he was frozen in the ice. The Soviets under Hydra found him and decided to brainwash him and turn him into the new fist of the Hydra. Deciding that, they fitted him with the bionic arm of titanium with the communist star on top of it. Rebranding himself as the Winter Soldier, Bucky embarked on a new mission. During one assignment, he confronted Isaiah Bradley in Goyang, South Korea. In their encounter, Bradley managed to sever half of Bucky's arm, but Hydra swiftly repaired it. Isaiah casually remarked on how Bucky seemingly regenerated the metal arm. In various scenes, we witness the incredible power of Bucky's metal arm until Captain America Civil War, where Tony Stark manages to completely break it. This pivotal moment leads T'Challa, also known as the Black Panther, to gift Winter Soldier a new arm made of vibranium. By receiving the vibranium arm, it can be assumed that the biggest link to Bucky's dark past with Hydra was finally severed. Letting go of his past traumas and finding solace became a smoother journey for him after his titanium arm was removed while staying in Wakanda.
Stop.
Stop. Why do some random words trigger Winter Soldier? Longing, rusted, furnace, daybreak, 17, benign, 9, homecoming, 1, freight car. These words seem random when we say them out loud, but they are not random when it comes to our dearest Winter Soldier. Here are some of the proven and speculated reasons behind each of these words being a trigger for Bucky. Longing is something that Bucky has felt for the longest time, whether it's the longing to be in the absolute control of his mind again, or whether it's the longing to go back to the simpler times when he had his left hand and not being a mind-controlled assassin. Rusted is understood to imply his bionic arm. Ever since he regained consciousness, Bucky has been fitted with the bionic arm. This metal arm will rust eventually, as metals do, and that will eventually render him useless with one functional arm only. Bucky has always remained in a block of ice between missions when he is obedient. Hence that is why furnace, which is the opposite of ice, implies what would happen to him if he dared to disobey Hydra and try to set himself free. Just like his new journey in life when he decided to join the war, Daybreak also refers to his new life as the assassin of Hydra. Bucky could have been the 17th unlucky person to fall victim to this brainwashing, and that is why 17 holds such power over him. Benign is what Bucky is when he's not on any mission, and this may make him feel powerless and weak. 9 is assumed to be referencing the Greek mythology where Hydra had 9 heads, and even after you cut one off, another grew in its place. A lot of fans assumed that the word homecoming was used as an Easter egg for Spider-Man Homecoming, but that is not the case. The true reason behind the word being a trigger is yet to be speculated. Personally, I feel that homecoming could be triggering for Bucky because he might feel like he doesn't have a home he can return to, especially 100 years in the future. Well, what do you think? 1 might be referring to Bucky being the first and only Winter Soldier to exist, insinuating how lonely his journey is. And last, we have freight car. Bucky was thrown off of the car into an icy river below. This word reminds him of the most traumatic event that has ever happened to him, which is probably why it triggers him so. How powerful is his bionic arm? Bucky's bionic arm is what makes him a very formidable opponent and a very strong ally to have. Bucky's bionic arm gives him enough strength to go hand to hand in combat with Captain America and give him a tough time. But that's not all. His hand essentially works as cybernetic defense. His arm is strong enough to take blow after blow from Black Panther's vibranium claws without a single scratch. When Bucky falls from a great height, which happens often, his arm takes the brunt of the fall and still remains functional. Not only that, his arm allows Bucky to defend himself against gunshots as well. We get to see this more prominently when Bucky is facing off against Natasha. He can easily deflect the bullets fired at him with his arm. Did you know that Bucky's bionic arm can even destroy a Terminator? Assuming we have a Terminator which can survive after having Bucky rain hell upon it, Bucky's bionic arm can discharge electrical charges from the palm. He can generate electromagnetic pulses, and as we know, EMP is the thing that successfully kills Terminators each and every time. Bucky tried to use EMP blasts on Iron Man as well. One of the biggest advantages of Bucky's arm that we see act in a subtle way is tactical reload. Because of the way his arm is built, Bucky never has to stop and reload his weapon. That's because his arm does it for him automatically. Does he have healing ability? We know that ever since Bucky became Winter Soldier, he's had a lot of upgrades, especially after Nick Fury injected him with Infinity Formula. For instance, increased stamina, increased agility, enhanced balance, and enhanced reflexes. One such ability that was enhanced was his ability to heal himself. His healing ability is far superior compared to the rest of us. Bucky can heal broken bones, gunshot wounds, stab wounds, and other such heavier wounds in just a few days, while that would usually take any of us anywhere from 3 months to 5 months to completely heal. Our Winter Soldier takes mere days to regenerate the cells of his heart and heal his heart. Any other minor injuries like cuts, bruises, scratches, they're gone within hours thanks to his healing ability working overtime. Once, Bucky Barnes had lung cancer. Multiverses usually let us see our favourite characters leading very different lives, sometimes far better than what they had on Earth 616, that is, the canon Earth. When it comes to Bucky, life was not easy for him in either timelines. The Ultimates comic follows Earth 1610, a separate timeline entirely. In this timeline, Bucky is not the Winter Soldier because he never got frozen as he did in Earth 616, and in turn, the Hydra never saved him, you get the gist. But that does not let Bucky have a better life. In this timeline, Bucky survived World War II thinking he had lost his best friend. Coping through the hard time of war and losing his best friend pushed Bucky into developing a really bad habit of smoking. Chain smoking for years led to Bucky ending up with lung cancer, which is the second most common type of cancer. Does he have any love interest? Can he reproduce? Like every fandom, Marvel fandom has a lot of ships. Some of these ships are popular and sought after, and one such ship is the Winter Widow. The relationship between the Black Widow and the Winter Soldier is something that a lot of fans have been wanting to see for a long time, owing to their relationships with the Soviets and their equally dark pasts. This pairing came to fruition when the Soviets rescued Bucky from the ice that he was trapped in. The Soviets gave him the bionic arm, and as Bucky did not have any memory of who he used to be, he became one of the instructors of the Red Room. While he played the instructor, he met Natasha, and sparks flew between them. The relationship was kept secret because romantic relationships were a distraction for the widows, and that left too many strings for the widow. But this relationship was soon found out by the KGB, and to end the romantic relationship, Natasha was engaged to Shostakov. Bucky, on the other hand, was put back into cryostasis when an assassination attempt went wrong. Bucky was considered unstable and unfit. Later, these two rekindled their relationship when Barnes was no longer under the Soviets' brainwashing. A big fan theory is that when we see Bucky in Captain America Civil War fighting with Natasha, the only reason he says, "You could at least recognize me," is because the relationship is actually canon. Perhaps we will get more scenes between the Winter Soldier and Black Widow in the future that might solidify the relationship a little bit more. As Bucky is human, he can definitely reproduce, but there's been no mention of any of his children in the comics. He has adopted children, but he is yet to father his own child. Is he immortal? Comic book fans have witnessed several characters being resurrected after their deaths. However, for the longest time, the three characters never saw the light of day after their death. They were Bucky Barnes, Jason Todd, and Uncle Ben. As comic book lovers are aware, Jason Todd did not stay dead, just like Bucky. Now when it comes to Bucky, his death is far more complicated than that of Jason. When it comes to Jason, we get to see him die in the warehouse, one that was rigged by the Joker. But when it comes to Bucky, we never truly get to see him die. There's no confirmation anywhere of Captain's friend. We only assume that Bucky dies because that is how Captain recollects his memory. Based on Captain's memory, we learn in the 4th issue of Avengers that during the Second World War, there was an explosion that claimed Bucky's life. This supposed death of Bucky was something that Captain carried with him for a really long time. In the movie, we see Bucky fall to what seems like his death, but in 2005, we get to see Bucky come back into the picture. It turned out, like Captain, he fell into the water and was frozen. Unlike Captain, Bucky was found by the Hydra. The Hydra took advantage of his amnesia and turned him into the mindless assassin that we all know and love. Marvelous verdict. With all that said, Bucky Barnes is not someone you want to mess with or without his bionic arm. The man is deadly. His combat skills and physical abilities are far more amplified than we originally expected. Despite his dark past and the crimes he committed while he was brainwashed, he is always trying to be better and never giving up. That is what makes him a hero in our eyes. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.
An idea of